A warm greeting. Today is Thursday, October 31st, 2024. This is meteorologist Ruben Garcia, and in this video, I'll be discussing two areas of low pressure we're monitoring in the Caribbean region. The first is located just north of Panama and has a moderate chance of cyclonic development as it moves northwest, potentially developing into a tropical cyclone, possibly tropical storm Patty. This low pressure area could pose a cyclonic threat to Cuba, Jamaica, the Yucatán Peninsula, and Belize, so it's important for residents in these areas to stay informed about the forecast's progress. On the other hand, we also have an area of low pressure just southeast of Puerto Rico with a low probability of cyclonic development as it moves west-northwest. While significant development of this disturbance is not expected, it may affect parts of northern Dominican Republic, Haiti, the Turks and Caicos Islands, and southern Bahamas. As predicted, there is a complex interaction of different atmospheric phenomena across Central America and the Caribbean. In Central America, a circulation associated with a Central American gyre is leading to the formation of a low-pressure system that could develop into a tropical cyclone. This is causing heavy rain throughout much of Central America, particularly for Costa Rica, Panama, Nicaragua, El Salvador, and Honduras, where the coming days will be extremely rainy, especially in Costa Rica and Panama. Meanwhile, the remnants of a frontal system are interacting with an upper-level trough over parts of the northeastern Caribbean, causing considerable instability over the northern Lesser Antilles, Puerto Rico, and parts of northern and eastern Dominican Republic. Today, flooding has been reported in some areas, and heavy rain is expected to continue in the coming days, leading to a high risk of flooding through the weekend across much of the greater and Lesser Antilles and parts of Central and Southern Central America. In the final part of the video, I'll discuss the rainfall accumulations expected in various Caribbean and Central American countries in relation to the cyclonic development of these two low-pressure areas. At 2 p.m., the National Hurricane Center raised the development probability of the low-pressure area east of Nicaragua to 60%. This system is projected to move north, passing very near or over Jamaica and eventually moving west-northwest toward the western Caribbean Sea. Additionally, the National Hurricane Center has marked the area north of Puerto Rico, the Dominican Republic, and southern Bahamas with a 10% probability of cyclonic development over the next 7 days. We'll also be monitoring the low-pressure system near Puerto Rico, which may eventually be absorbed by the low pressure over the western Caribbean Sea as it moves over the Bahamas and parts of Cuba. This interaction between the two disturbances will be interesting to analyze in the upcoming global model projections. Briefly, I'd like to mention that the National Hurricane Center has marked a non-tropical low-pressure area over the northern Atlantic with a low cyclonic development probability of 20% over the next 7 days. Although it poses no land threat, it may eventually affect the Azores Islands. Now, let's talk about the Caribbean Sea situation and the potential development of the next tropical cyclone of the season, which would be named Tropical Storm Patty. Let's take a look at the latest forecast from the American model, the GFS. By Friday afternoon, it places the low pressure east of Nicaragua and also amplifies the low pressure near or over Puerto Rico. Watch how these two disturbances evolve over the weekend. The GFS model moves the low pressure in the northeastern Caribbean over the Turks and Caicos Islands, eventually reaching eastern Cuba, while it moves the Caribbean Sea low pressure north-northwestward by early next week. Between Tuesday and Wednesday, both low pressure systems converge, and this model predicts the possible development of a tropical storm near or over western Cuba and the Yucatán Peninsula. According to this model, it may not be until next Wednesday that we could see a tropical depression or tropical storm Patty develop. So, we're looking at a long-term forecast, and we'll have many days to monitor the situation carefully. I'd also like to note that, as part of the instability dominating Central America's weather, the GFS model also shows the potential development of a tropical cyclone off the west coast of Nicaragua and south of El Salvador. While cyclonic development probabilities in this area are extremely low at this time, we'll keep an eye out in case the forecast changes. Let's now look at the European model projection, which is very similar to the American model. By Friday afternoon, it also places two low-pressure areas, one in the northeastern Caribbean and another just east of Nicaragua. Watch the interaction of these disturbances at the beginning and middle of next week. The European model potentially develops a tropical depression near or just south of Jamaica by Monday night. Then, by midweek, it maintains a west-northwest movement, eventually strengthening this system into a tropical storm as it passes near western Cuba or northeastern Yucatán Peninsula on Wednesday night or early Thursday. At a longer range, see how the European model moves this potential cyclone over the Gulf of Mexico. Though it's still unclear where it may head or whether it will affect other Gulf Coast states, the German model projection is similar, showing two low-pressure areas affecting the Caribbean but not developing a tropical depression or storm southwest of Jamaica until Monday afternoon. maintaining a west-northwest path toward the Western Caribbean by midweek. The UK model shows a tropical storm moving slightly south, reaching northern Belize or southern Quintana Roo by Thursday morning. Despite some discrepancies among the top global models regarding the exact formation location and future path of this potential tropical cyclone, there is a general consensus that Tropical Storm Patty should develop in the Western Caribbean Sea early to mid-next week. This scenario also has strong support among the European ensemble members, all of which develop a tropical depression or tropical storm just south of Jamaica and maintain a west-northwest trajectory, posing a risk to the Yucatán Peninsula or western Cuba. In the long term, different scenarios suggest paths toward the southeastern United States, the central Gulf of Mexico, or a more western route toward the Bay of Campeche. Ensemble also shows this tendency, with some members predicting a more northern path that could increase the risk for Jamaica, Cuba, and eventually the southeastern U.S. Some members of the American model also predict the development of a tropical depression or storm associated with the low pressure near Puerto Rico. The cyclonic development probabilities in the Western Caribbean continue to increase as the days progress, and general trends suggest that if a tropical cyclone forms, it will likely track near or over Jamaica, western Cuba, and the Yucatán Peninsula. Regardless of cyclonic development, heavy rainfall is expected across the Greater and Lesser Antilles, as well as much of Central and Southern Central America. For instance, according to the GFS model's 7-day projection, the Dominican Republic is expected to receive 100 to 125 millimeters of rain, while some islands in the northern Lesser Antilles may see 100 to 200 millimeters of rainfall. There is also a high risk of flooding due to rainfall totals exceeding 200 millimeters in eastern Cuba, Jamaica, Haiti, the Turks and Caicos Islands, and southern Bahamas. Notably, western Panama, Costa Rica, Nicaragua, southern Honduras, and El Salvador may experience rainfall totals of 300 to 700 millimeters over the next 7 days. This could lead to severe flooding issues throughout much of southern and western Central America. The European model projects up to 700 millimeters of rain between Panama and Costa Rica, and 150 to 200 millimeters of rain for northeastern Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico, northern Lesser Antilles, Jamaica, western Cuba, and northeastern Yucatán Peninsula. Residents in Central America and much of the Caribbean Sea should remain vigilant of this forecast and the cyclonic threat to Jamaica, western Cuba, and the Yucatán Peninsula. Here on Hurricane Info, I will continue monitoring these trends and keep you informed of any forecast changes. So, please check to make sure you're subscribed to my channel, subscribe if you haven't, and don't forget to click the bell to receive notifications when I record new videos. Well, that's it for now. The next video will be recorded tomorrow. See you then.